What would you do if the person you loved most in this world believed a lie about you? A lie so terrible it destroyed everything you built together in seconds? I'm talking about losing your wife, your reputation, and your entire life because of one person's jealousy. My name is Luke. I'm 28 years old, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you know about trust, love, and family. This is a story about how a high school rejection turned into a decade-long revenge plot that nearly destroyed my life. And here's the twist. The villain wasn't some random stranger. It was my wife's own sister. Before we dive in, if you enjoy dramatic real-life stories about relationships, betrayal, and standing up for yourself, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare truly began.
High school. The time when we're all just trying to figure out who we are, right? Well, back then, I was a pretty average guy. Not the most popular, not the smartest, just Luke. I played basketball, did decent in my classes, and honestly, I was just trying to survive those awkward teenage years like everyone else. That's when I met Susanna. Susanna was intense. She was one of those people who knew exactly what she wanted and went after it without hesitation. She was confident, popular, and honestly kind of intimidating. We had a few classes together and we became friends. At least, I thought we were just friends. Junior year, everything changed. It was after a basketball game. We'd just won against our rival school, and everyone was celebrating. Susanna pulled me aside, away from the crowd, and that's when she did it. She told me she had feelings for me. She said she'd been watching me, that she thought we'd be perfect together, that she could see our future. I was 17 years old, completely caught off guard, and I didn't feel the same way. Not even close. I tried to let her down gently. I really did. I told her I valued our friendship, that I wasn't looking for a relationship, that it wasn't about her but about me, all those things people say when they're trying to be kind. But here's what I learned that day. Some people don't want kindness. They want what they want, and anything less than that is an insult. The look on Susanna's face, I'll never forget it. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't disappointment. It was rage. Pure, unfiltered rage. Her eyes went cold, and she just stared at me for what felt like forever, before she turned around and walked away without saying a word. After that day, things got weird. Susanna started spreading rumors about me at school. Nothing too serious at first, just little things. She'd tell people I was arrogant, that I led her on, that I thought I was too good for everyone. She turned some of our mutual friends against me. High school drama, right? I figured it would blow over after graduation. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. We graduated, went our separate ways, and I honestly thought that was the end of it. I went to community college, started working, and tried to build a life for myself. Susanna became a distant memory, just another chapter in my past that I had moved on from. 5 years went by. 5 peaceful years where I didn't think about Susanna or that awkward rejection even once. And then I met Lisa. Lisa moved into the apartment next door to mine when I was 23. I still remember the day she arrived. It was a Saturday morning, and I was leaving for work when I saw this woman struggling to carry a massive box up the stairs. Without thinking, I offered to help. That was the moment my life changed forever. Lisa was beautiful, but not in the way Susanna had been. Susanna's beauty was sharp, commanding attention. Lisa's beauty was gentle, like sunlight filtering through trees. She had this warm smile that made you feel like everything was going to be okay, no matter what was happening in your life. We started talking,
and I found out she was a kindergarten teacher. She just moved to the area for a new job opportunity. She was kind, funny, and had this way of seeing the good in everything and everyone. We'd run into each other in the hallway, at the mailboxes, in the parking lot. Each conversation lasted a little longer than the last. I fell for her hard and fast. We started dating after about 2 months of being neighbors. Our first date was at this little Italian restaurant downtown. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. She told me about her dreams of opening her own preschool someday. I told her about my job in IT and how I was saving up to start my own consulting business. Everything felt right, natural, easy. We dated for 3 years before I proposed. It was at the park where we'd had our first picnic together. Nothing fancy or elaborate, just us, the sunset, and a promise to build a life together. She said yes before I could even finish asking the question. We got married in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was the happiest day of my life. Lisa looked absolutely stunning in her white dress, and when she walked down that aisle toward me, I felt like the luckiest man alive. But here's where the story takes a turn. Here's where everything I thought I knew about my perfect life started to crumble. At the wedding reception, Lisa introduced me to her sister. The moment I saw her face, my blood ran cold. Susanna. The same Susanna from high school. The same Susanna I'd rejected all those years ago. The same Susanna who'd made my senior year miserable. And she was my wife's sister. The universe has a twisted sense of humor, doesn't it? When our eyes met at that wedding reception, I saw it immediately. Susanna recognized me, and that same cold rage I'd seen in high school flashed across her face for just a split second before she masked it with a fake smile. Lisa had no idea about our history. Why would she? It had happened a decade ago in a different city, before Lisa and I had even met. Susanna had apparently never mentioned me to her family. And honestly, I thought maybe enough time had passed. Maybe she'd moved on. Maybe it would be fine. I was so naive. Lisa was confused about why I seemed tense around her sister, so I pulled her aside that night and told her everything. I explained about high school, about the rejection, about the awkwardness. I wanted to be honest with her from the start. You know what Lisa said? She laughed. Not in a mean way, but in that relieved way people laugh when they realize something isn't as bad as they thought. She told me that was ancient history, that we were all adults now, that Susanna had dated plenty of people since high school and was probably over it. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The first year of our marriage was relatively peaceful. Susanna was polite when we saw her at family gatherings, though never warm. She'd make little comments here and there, nothing outright hostile, but enough to keep me on edge. She'd talk about her ex-boyfriends and how successful they were. She'd mention how she'd dodged a bullet with certain people in her past. She'd look directly at me when she said these things. Lisa never noticed. Or maybe she did and chose to ignore it, hoping it would go away. By our second anniversary, I'd almost convinced myself that I was being paranoid. Maybe Susanna really had moved on. Maybe those comments were just coincidence. Maybe I was reading too much into things because of our history. Then came the family vacation. Lisa's parents had rented a beach house for a week and invited the whole family. Lisa was so excited about it. She loved her family and wanted us all to bond. I agreed to go because I loved her and wanted to make her happy. That week, Susanna's behavior changed. She started being overly friendly to me. Too friendly. She'd touch my arm when she talked to me. She'd laugh at things I said that weren't even funny. She'd sit next to me at dinner and find excuses to be alone with me. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to cause drama. I kept my distance as much as I could without being obvious about it. I figured if I just ignored it, the week would pass and we'd go home. On the last night of the vacation, Susanna cornered me on the deck while everyone else was inside watching a movie. She stood close, too close, and told me she'd made a mistake all those years ago. She said she should have fought harder for me. She said we could still be together, that Lisa didn't have to know. I was shocked, disgusted, actually. I told her no. I told her I loved Lisa, that I would never betray her, especially not with her own sister. I told Susanna she needed to move on and that this conversation was completely inappropriate. She just smiled at me. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had a plan. You're gonna regret rejecting me again, Luke, just like you regretted it in high school. Then she walked back inside like nothing had happened. I should have told Lisa, right then and there. I should have explained everything, but I didn't want to ruin the vacation. I didn't want to cause a rift between Lisa and her sister. I convinced myself that Susanna was just drunk and emotional, that she didn't really mean it. That was my biggest mistake.
3 weeks after we got back from that vacation, my entire world imploded. I came home from work on a Tuesday evening to find Lisa sitting on our couch, her face red and swollen from crying. My first thought was that something had happened to her parents or her brother. I rushed over, asking what was wrong, ready to comfort her. She flinched away from me. That's when I knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "How could you do that to her? To me?" I had no idea what she was talking about. I was completely confused, asking her to explain, to tell me what had happened. That's when she told me. Susanna had accused me of sexual assault. According to Susanna, I had come to her apartment the week before and forced myself on her. She'd apparently told Lisa that she'd been too traumatized and ashamed to say anything at first, but she couldn't keep it secret anymore. She'd shown Lisa text messages that supposedly proved we'd been having an affair. She had details, times, dates. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. None of it was true. Not a single word. I'd never been to Susanna's apartment alone. We'd never had an affair. I'd never touched her inappropriately. The accusation was so outrageous, so completely fabricated, that I didn't even know how to defend myself. But as I stood there, trying to explain, trying to tell Lisa that her sister was lying, I could see in her eyes that she didn't believe me. She wanted to believe Susanna. Blood is thicker than water, right? And I was just the guy she'd known for a few years. Susanna was her sister, her family, someone she'd known and trusted her entire life. I tried everything. I showed her my phone records, proving I'd been at work during the time Susanna claimed this had happened. I explained about the conversation on the deck during the vacation, about how Susanna had made advances toward me. I begged her to listen, to think rationally, to remember who I was and what our marriage meant. She didn't want to hear it. She'd already made up her mind. Lisa told me she needed space. She said she couldn't look at me, couldn't be in the same room as me. She was moving to Susanna's apartment while she figured out what to do. "I want a divorce," she said, her voice cold and distant. "I can't be married to someone like you. Someone like me. As if I was a monster. As if everything we'd built together meant nothing." She packed a bag that night and left. Just like that, my wife of 2 years walked out of our apartment and out of my life, believing a lie told by someone who'd been holding a grudge for over a decade. I didn't sleep that night, or the next night, or the night after that.
The days following Lisa's departure were the darkest of my life. I kept replaying everything in my mind, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong, what I could have done differently. Should I have told Lisa about the conversation on the deck immediately? Should I have refused to go on that vacation? Should I have somehow seen this coming? But the truth is, I never could have predicted that Susanna would go this far. A high school grudge is one thing. Falsely accusing someone of a serious crime? That's something else entirely. I tried calling Lisa every day. She wouldn't answer. I sent texts explaining my side of the story. She blocked my number.
I even tried reaching out to her parents, but Susanna had gotten to them first. According to her version of events, I was a predator who'd fooled their entire family. My reputation started crumbling. Word spread through Lisa's family, then to mutual friends. People I'd known for years started looking at me differently. Some stopped talking to me altogether. In today's world, an accusation alone is enough to condemn someone. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. I consulted with a lawyer about defamation and false accusations. He told me that cases like this are incredibly difficult to prove, especially when there are no actual criminal charges filed. Susanna had been smart about it. She'd told her family and spread the rumor, but she hadn't gone to the police. That would have required evidence, investigations, proof. This way, she could destroy my life without facing any legal consequences herself. I lost weight. I stopped going out. I could barely focus at work. My boss pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. How do you explain to your employer that your life is falling apart because of a lie you can't disprove? 2 months went by like this. 2 months of isolation, depression, and hopelessness. I seriously considered just giving up, moving to another city, starting over with a new name, leaving everything behind. At least then I wouldn't have to see the judgment in people's eyes every day. But then something happened, something I never expected. Lisa showed up at our apartment door.
It was late on a Friday night when I heard the knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'd barely left the apartment in weeks except for work and groceries. When I opened the door and saw Lisa standing there, I didn't know what to feel. Hope? Fear? Anger? She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair was a mess, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. For a moment, we just stared at each other. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside and let her in, my heart pounding. Was she here to finalize the divorce? To get more of her things? To tell me she was moving on with her life? She sat down on the couch, the same couch where this nightmare had started, and buried her face in her hands. Then she started crying. Not just regular crying, but the kind of sobbing that comes from deep, soul-crushing regret. "I'm so sorry," she said through her tears. "Luke, I'm so sorry. You were telling the truth. Susanna lied about everything." I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "What?" Lisa looked up at me with devastated eyes. "I found out the truth. Susanna confessed. Well, not exactly confessed. I caught her. She was drunk last night and started bragging to her friend on the phone. She didn't know I was in the apartment. She was laughing about it, Luke. Laughing about how she'd finally gotten revenge on you for rejecting her in high school. Laughing about how I'd believed her. Laughing about destroying our marriage." The words hung in the air between us. Part of me felt vindicated, relieved. But another part of me, a much bigger part, felt something else entirely. Rage. Lisa continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. I confronted her immediately. At first, she tried to deny it, but then she just admitted everything. She said you'd humiliated her twice, once in high school and again when you chose me over her. She said you deserved to suffer. She said she'd been planning this ever since she found out we were dating. The fake text messages, the made-up story, all of it was calculated to destroy us. She reached for my hand, but I couldn't let her touch me. Not yet. "Luke, please," she begged. "I know I messed up. I should have believed you. You're my husband. You've never given me any reason not to trust you. But she's my sister. And the way she told the story, the fake evidence she had, I didn't know what to think. I was confused and hurt, and I made the wrong choice. The worst choice." I stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. My mind was racing. Yes, Lisa now knew the truth. Yes, Susanna had been exposed as a liar. But did that fix everything? Could we just go back to the way things were? "You destroyed me, Lisa," I said,
my voice barely above a whisper. "When you left, when you believed her over me, you didn't just break my heart, you destroyed my reputation, my peace of mind, my sense of safety. Do you know what it's like to be accused of something like that? To have everyone look at you like you're a monster? To know that your own wife thinks you're capable of something so horrible?" "I know," she sobbed. "I know, and I hate myself for it. I haven't slept since I found out. I've been trying to figure out how to fix this, how to make it right. I told my entire family the truth. I told all our friends. I'm doing everything I can to repair the damage." I turned to face her. "And what about Susanna? What consequences is she facing for what she did?" Lisa looked down at her hands. "My parents are furious with her. They're not speaking to her right now. Some of our relatives have cut ties with her. She's dealing with the fallout." "That's it?" I asked, my voice rising. "She commits fraud, destroys a marriage, falsely accuses someone of a serious crime, and her punishment is that some people aren't talking to her? Where's the justice in that, Lisa?" "I don't know what else I can do," she said helplessly. "I can't undo what happened. I can only try to move forward and make things right between us. I love you, Luke. I never stopped loving you. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm begging you to forgive me. We can get through this together. We can be stronger than before." I sat back down, but kept my distance from her. "Can we, though? Every time I look at you now, I'm going to remember that night you left. I'm going to remember that you chose to believe a lie over me. How do we come back from that?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I want to try. Don't you?" That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? Did I want to try? I'd spent 2 years building a life with Lisa. We'd made plans together, dreams together. We'd talked about buying a house, having kids, growing old together. All of that had been destroyed in a single night because of Susanna's jealousy and Lisa's lack of faith in me. But here's what I realized in that moment. Even if Lisa now knew the truth, even if she was sorry, the damage was done. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully repair. Every argument we'd have in the future, every disagreement, every moment of conflict, I'd wonder if she'd believe me or if she'd turn against me again. And there was something else too, something that made my decision easier. Lisa's family. Even if Lisa and I reconciled, Susanna would always be part of the picture. She'd be at family gatherings, holidays, birthdays. Sure, things might be awkward now, but eventually, families have a way of smoothing things over. People forgive, they forget, they move on. And I'd be expected to just, sit at the same dinner table as the woman who tried to destroy my life? Pretend it never happened? Act like everything was fine? No, I couldn't do that. I looked at Lisa, really looked at her, and I saw the pain in her eyes. I knew she was genuinely sorry. I knew she regretted her choice, but I also knew that sorry wasn't enough. "Lisa, I appreciate you coming here and telling me the truth. I really do. And I'm glad you know that I didn't do what Susanna accused me of. But what?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. "But I can't do this anymore. I can't be part of your family. Every time I see Susanna, every time your parents talk about her, every time there's a family event, it's going to be there. This thing hanging over us. And honestly, I don't think I can forgive you for not believing me." Fresh tears streamed down her face. "Please don't say that. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can—" "No," I said firmly. "You made a choice that night. You chose your sister over me. You chose a lie over our marriage. And that's something I can't forget, even if I wanted to." The divorce was finalized 4 months later. It was amicable as far as divorces go. We split our assets fairly, and since we didn't have kids or a shared property, it was relatively straightforward. Lisa tried to reach out several times during those months. She sent emails apologizing again, asking if we could meet for coffee, suggesting we try counseling. Each time, I politely declined. It wasn't about being cruel or holding a grudge. It was about protecting myself and my peace of mind. I learned something important during this whole experience. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I could forgive Lisa for her mistake while still choosing not to continue the relationship. Those are two separate things, and I wish more people understood that. As for Susanna, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she faced her own consequences. Lisa's family did ostracize her for a while. She lost several friendships once the truth came out. Last I heard, she'd moved to another state, probably to escape the reputation she'd built for herself. Do I feel bad for her? Not really. She made her choices, and actions have consequences. She spent over a decade holding on to a high school rejection, and in her quest for revenge, she destroyed her own relationship with her sister and her family. That's on her, not me. I also learned that I needed to be more assertive about red flags in the future. When Susanna made that comment on the deck during the vacation, I should have insisted on telling Lisa immediately, regardless of how awkward it might have been. I should have documented everything. I should have protected myself better. But you know what? I don't regret the experience, as painful as it was. It taught me about my own strength, about the importance of standing up for yourself, even when everyone else doubts you, and about the value of knowing your worth. The months after the divorce were strange. On one hand, I was free from the drama, the pain, and the constant stress. On the other hand, I was starting my life over from scratch at 28 years old. I threw myself into work. That consulting business I'd always dreamed about, I finally started it. Turns out, having your entire personal life fall apart gives you a lot of motivation to focus on your career. Within 6 months, I'd built up a solid client base and was making more money than I ever had at my old job. I also started going to therapy. Not because I thought there was something wrong with me, but because I needed to process everything that had happened. My therapist helped me understand that being falsely accused is a form of trauma. The hypervigilance, the trust issues, the anger, it was all normal given what I'd been through. One thing I struggled with was the idea of dating again. How do you trust someone new when the person you trusted most betrayed you? How do you open yourself up to that kind of vulnerability again? My therapist suggested I take my time. She said there was no rush to jump into another relationship, then I needed to heal first. So that's what I did. I focused on myself, my business, my friendships, my hobbies. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. I started playing basketball again, something I'd stopped doing years ago. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to visit but never had the time for. I learned to be comfortable being alone, which is something I'd never really experienced as an adult. And slowly, very slowly, I started to feel like myself again. About a year after the divorce, I ran into one of Lisa's cousins at a coffee shop. She'd always been kind to me, and after the truth came out, she'd been one of the few family members who'd reached out to apologize for believing Susanna's lies. She told me that Lisa was struggling, that she'd been going to therapy too, dealing with guilt and regret, that she asked about me sometimes, wondered how I was doing. Part of me felt sympathy for her. I didn't hate Lisa. I never had. She'd made a mistake, a huge mistake, but she was human. We all make mistakes. But that sympathy didn't change my decision. I'd moved on, and there was no going back. If you're still watching, first of all, thank you. I know this has been a long story, but I wanted to give you the full picture. Because here's the thing, life isn't simple. People aren't just good or evil. Situations aren't just black and white. Susanna wasn't born a villain. Something about that high school rejection affected her deeply, and instead of dealing with her feelings in a healthy way, she let them fester for years, until they turned into something toxic. Does that excuse what she did? Absolutely not, but it does explain it. Lisa wasn't a bad person either.
She was caught between her husband and her sister, and she made the wrong choice. She let family loyalty override logic and trust, and she paid the price for it. And me? I wasn't perfect either. I could have been more proactive about protecting myself. I could have insisted on addressing the Susanna situation head-on instead of hoping it would go away. So what did I learn from all of this? First, trust your gut. When something feels wrong, it probably is. Those red flags I ignored, they were there for a reason. Second, protect yourself. Document things. Be proactive about addressing problems before they escalate. Don't assume that being a good person is enough protection against false accusations. Third, know your worth. When people don't value you, when they don't believe in you, when they don't stand by you, you have every right to walk away. You don't owe anyone a relationship, not even your spouse if that relationship is harmful to you. Fourth, forgiveness is for you, not them. I had to forgive Lisa and Susanna not because they deserved it, but because holding on to that anger was destroying me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or reconciling. It just means releasing the burden of hatred. And finally, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is start over. It's scary to walk away from everything familiar, but sometimes it's necessary for your own well-being. It's been 3 years since this all happened. 3 years since that night Lisa walked out of our apartment believing a lie. 3 years since my life fell apart, and I had to rebuild it from scratch. Today, I'm doing well. Really well, actually. My business is thriving, I've got great friends, supportive colleagues, and the life I'm proud of. I've even started dating again, though I'm taking it slow. Trust doesn't come easy for me anymore, but I'm working on it. Do I ever think about what might have been if things had turned out differently? Sure. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if Lisa had believed me from the start, if we'd worked through it together, if Susanna had never made that accusation. But then I remember that the person who believes you in the good times but doubts you in the hard times isn't really on your side. A true partner stands by you when things get difficult, not just when everything's easy. I don't regret my decision to walk away from that family. I don't regret choosing my own peace of mind over a relationship that had been fundamentally broken. And I don't regret standing up for myself when everyone else thought I should just accept the apology and move on. Because here's the truth. You teach people how to treat you. And I wasn't going to teach Lisa, or her family, or anyone else that it's okay to falsely accuse me, to doubt me, and then expect me to just forgive and forget like nothing happened. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been falsely accused of something, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, if you've ever had to make the difficult choice to walk away from a relationship, I see you. I understand. And I want you to know that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button, leave a comment telling me what you think, and share this video with anyone who might need to hear this message. Remember, your peace of mind is worth protecting, even if it costs you everything else. This is Luke, signing off. Take care of yourselves out there.
Thanks for watching. Check out these other videos about relationships, betrayal, and standing up for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. See you in the next one.